Hello. So, if you're a test engineer and you want to move into test automation, why I think you should start with programming rather than following a conventional way? And to answer this question, I think we first need to understand what is testing role and classic test automation role and what are future steps for someone who want to grow into automation area might be. And by no means I want to diminish a role of testing or testers. In fact, I think that testing is a unique, challenging, uh, while sometimes underappreciated role, but there are lots of things to learn, and I don't think that 10 years or 15 years will be enough to learn everything about testing. On the other hand, we also can probably see that the demand for testers is not increasing, is probably even is decreasing. Well, at least it certainly is not growing as fast as we probably want that. And if you get lots of skills, if you are getting into a state where you can call yourself a extremely skilled tester, the not so many roles available for that kind of professionals. Usually at some point you just stop growing and you getting less appreciation basically. In any case, I think that learning testing and knowing about testing is essential for those who want to succeed in test automation. And one of the best resources about testing, I think, is rapid software testing methodology. Follow the link, learn about that. That's must see. Classic test automation can also be called GAMPUP. I think this term was coined by Michael Bolton, and it stands for Get a Machine Push Button. And it's based on the concept like we take a Selenium or Appium and we emulate what user would do. We take a test case, manual test case as is, and then instead of pushing buttons ourselves, make a machine to push those buttons. And you know that. It usually starts, okay, I learned Selenium and now I can do this automation because you see, this browser is doing things automatically and I don't do anything. But if you start from this direction, usually what you learn is easiest low-level scripting, and in the long term, it rarely works. If you do testing like this, concentrating usually on UI level only, it is not possible to avoid duplication with the work done by developers. And in addition to that, classic test automation has somewhat unclear focus. Is it about testing? What is the goal? Is it to test product or it is to write test tools? And that is actually a very big deal. Many people have a burnout about that because they don't really know what they focus. They want to test some other, but they don't want to concentrate on test tools. Other people actually want to concentrate on test tools and they don't like to test. And when they need to do something manually, they get very frustrated. So test automation is kind of a compromise, but not a win-win level, but lose-lose level. You don't get best of both worlds, basically. To learn more about the game pump and why it's not necessarily the best thing to do, you can follow this link on LinkedIn, and Michael Bolton gives a very nice description. There is a funny video which might be used as a metaphor for why such tools-driven test automation might work. You can watch it, but the long story short, you usually don't get an efficient solution if you don't understand the tools. But these tools are the development tools, they are libraries. And to understand how they work, how they can and should be used, you need to have some level of development background. So I think that maybe a next step here might be a thing called test tools developer. Or some suggest that we already have something like this, which is software development engineering test. I'm not sure about that, because in some companies, software development engineering test is just another name for tester. But okay, it may be any name. The idea is that it's someone with a robust development background, and it is a development job where you create test tools, and your focus would be, instead of, for example, front end or back end, it will be creating test tools. Or self-testing code is another interesting concept, and to be able to do that, to grow into that direction, robust development background is a must. And I think that only if you grow into that direction, we can get a thing which I can call a holistic approach for test automation. If we take a very popular concept of test automation pyramid, which I will not go into details here, it will be discussed in other courses. But the idea is that there are some amount of UI integration and unit tests, and you certainly don't want those to duplicate each other, because it's just duplication. You don't get anything out of duplication. And you can't write UI tests unduplicated, without duplication, basically, if you can't read or write integration and unit test, and you can't read or write integration and unit test if you can't develop. So self-testing code is a very interesting concept. You can read about that at the Martin Fowler site. And don't worry about this video. All links is available in the video description. You don't need to type those, and they're available in the course as well. T-shaped employee is a very important concept nowadays. If you haven't noticed, Agile is kind of getting the momentum if it has not gotten it yet. And everyone think that teams must be self-sustainable. It's not like, sorry, self-sufficient. It's not like we have development team, we have test team, and we throw things from one point to another. Instead, we have a team of skilled people, which might be called a developer, like it was in Scrum Guide some time ago, which was saying everyone in Scrum team is a developer, disregard of his particular or her particular focus. And for example, let's consider this team with 3 people, where we have a developer with a focus in the front end, a developer with a focus in the back end, and a developer with a focus in test. So they all have the primary goal, and they all have a very similar core set of skills. So growing into test automation, my suggestion, don't start with tools, start with programming fundamentals. Learn how developers see the life cycle. It is very important, especially if you acknowledge the fact that in many companies, there are no testers at all. Everything is done by the developers. And this software development life cycle is a very holistic thing. If you're a tester, more often than not, you don't see what happens before you get the code into your hands. And then I'm suggesting learning about backend development, because most of test automation can be done there, like probably 80% of test automation can be done on a backend level. And then learn about front end, because out of 20% of test automation coverage, around 15% you can generate by writing unit tests for front end, not Selenium, but unit tests for front end. And only after that to cover 5% of things, I would suggest learning test automation tools. And then what we get, a holistic test automation approach. Thank you for joining me, and see you later.